Hello, we are Geeks Assembled, and we have gathered here once again for our Doctor Who night. And tonight we are going to be talking about a Peter Davison story, and it's going to be Warriors of the Deep. Now, I'm sure this is going to be very interesting discussion to see what people think of this story, because it's not very well regarded, really, is it? It's regarded as one of the worst episodes, but does it deserve to be? Let's go to Brian first. Brian, what do you make of this story? Are you a fan of it?
You gotta go to me first, Howard.
Well, the Fifth Doctor is your favourite.
True, he is.
So I thought I had to come to you first.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
Okay, let's go to Lee instead.
I just had a here.
Okay,
I just
Brian.
closed my door for a second, but I'm back. Anyway, Doctor Who, Warriors of the Deep, Peter Davison. I honestly, I know that some people complain that this is like one of the weakest stories within Davidson's era. Honestly, I don't really agree. I mean, I thought this story was pretty well done because, well, for one, I like Davidson's Doctor no matter what within classic ever. So whenever I see him shine as Doctor Who, the Doctor rather, but whenever I see him within Doctor Who, I'm enjoy, and seeing this story just is absolutely enjoyable to me. So I like it. I would give it like 2 thumbs up in my opinion. So it's enjoyable for me.
Oh, thanks for that, Brian. Let's go to Stephen Price down in Wales, which I hear is very sunny there at the moment.
Yes, it has been, and it's been raining and also. Yeah, I watched it this afternoon. It was in my classic massive DVD collection. No, it is one of his worst. Got to admit that. I noticed the actress Ingrid Pitt, who's been in the Hammer films. I couldn't stop laughing when she was confronting the monster. She just went to one side and done like a karate kick. Oh, what the hell? I know done her hair. I've never seen the back of her hair. It must have cost a fortune to have a hairstyle like that. Oh my God. Yeah, it is the worst Peter Davison one I've ever seen. You know, the monster coming through the doors and all this and that. You could tell there's people inside, you know, controlling it. I wouldn't watch that for a very, very long time.
So you think it's worse than, say, like Time Flight?
Oh, it is the worst, yeah.
Well, Time Flight had its downfalls, so.
Yeah, lots of them.
But it was cool seeing the Master in it, so.
Let's go to Lee. Lee, what do you make of Warriors of the Deep?
Right. It's a good story let down by production values. This one does suffer from the wobbly wall syndrome. There's a hell of a lot of wobbly walls in this, and rub-formed doors. Yes, it was on a shoestring. The budget was on a shoestring. They did the best what they could, and it was the last thing with the Myrka. They would say the paint was still wet when they were filming, and I don't think this. I think I heard someone tell a story that they never saw the end result of the Myrka until the stage film to anything about it. So, but for me, you see, I'm not a big fan of the Davison era. He's my least favourite classic Doctor. But for me, his last season was his best season for me. His first 2 seasons but this last season, and this started off this season, and I thought it was quite good. Bringing back the Silurians and the Sea Devils. I mean, the design of these Silurians are, well, not as good as the original Silurians from the Pertwee era. But give me these Silurians over the brand new ones in the New Who any day. And the Sea Devils, yeah, I love the Sea Devils. It's a pity their ears vanished in this version of the Sea Devils. I don't know where they went. Yeah, Ingrid Pitt, she's been in Doctor Who before. I just couldn't understand the kung fu fighting, the Myrka scene. I just didn't understand that at all. I can't fault Davison, Janet Fielding and Mark Strickson. Brilliant team together. I mean, I love Tina. I've always done. She gets a lot of stick, and I like Taylor as well. A lot of people don't like Taylor, but I think he's a good companion. As I say, it's a good story, just let down by production values. So that's my opening thoughts. Back to you, Alid.
But it also suffers from overlighting.
Yeah. I also as well suffers from it was 1984, and everybody was wearing looks like wearing the Michael Jackson's jumpsuit. And also with the eye makeup. Every time I saw the actors with the eye makeup, I kept thinking of Robots of Death. Yeah. All the actors in there had all the eye makeup. So I'm wondering, was it on, set in the same era? But I don't know. Yeah, it was just the 80s, bright shoulder pads and overacting.
Now it's time to go to Alex and Susan.
Oh, let me get me pillar.
You go for it, Alex.
It was it's a good plot, and it's a good idea for a foundation of a story, and the sets actually aren't bad, and the costumes are actually not bad. However, the monsters, especially that Myrka, is absolutely ludicrous. And I tried showing it to other people, and all they said was, I might as well be watching Star Trek. It'll be 100 times better. It's not that they didn't try. They had some interesting concepts. The sets are good. The costumes are good. The idea of the Silurians and the Sea Devils together are good. But it's just the hairstyling. The villains are bad. The general or whatever, the captain of the group is bad. Too much overacting. Too bright. And then you kind of wonder a little bit because it seemed like it was stealing from. It's one thing if it's a panache or one thing if it's an homage, but you just felt like they were trying to do like an action sci-fi, and Doctor Who doesn't have enough budget for that usually. Plus, when the Sea Devils and the Silurians were around, especially in the Pertwee era, it looked a lot better. And I don't know if that's the tone or the fact that they didn't have super bright neon lights or neon costumes, but it just looked a lot better. You know what I mean? So it starts off good, and then I tried to show it to people that are Star Trek fans, and they're like, no, this is not working. But as I said, I like Davidson. I liked his relaxed performance, not in this story, but he was relaxed. I mean, again, the story could have been 100 times worse, but it's just the budget wasn't good. The lights are too bright, and then the overacting. And they had the interesting concept. What was his name? The guy that got killed at the end after he was. The controller? Yeah, no, he was brainwashed to kill people and try to destroy the base and all that. I mean, that's actually an interesting idea. And it wasn't that it was done bad, but unfortunately it wasn't done that well. So you sort of have you have a promising idea and a promising plot, but I don't know if it was the direction or if they're trying to rush it. And then when the doors started breaking, they didn't look like doors anymore. It's disappointing. It was an idea. It wasn't a bad idea, but it just didn't have enough direction, I think. It didn't have enough. Whereas if Hinchcliffe were doing it or Barry Letts were overseeing it, it would have been a lot better. and the tone would have been a lot more natural, and the monsters would have looked at least 3 times better. So it just, it's too bad they couldn't have put either a little bit more work into it or scrap the idea and do it differently. It just didn't, like I said, I tried showing it to people, and it's not that it was terrible, but by the time they saw that Melker and the woman with the big hairs, no, they
But
just,
can I just say, the problem with the Myrka is that you see all of it.
yeah.
And you
Yeah.
see too much of it. If it was just like glancing shots and it was in the dark, they could kind of get away with it a little bit.
Yeah,
But because it's there, fully lit, there, and then the woman comes to kung fu it, I mean, it just looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
Susan, carry on.
Okay.
Alex.
Yeah, they were actually laughing on the floor when that scene was happening.
Yeah, because as Lee says, the paint was still wet on it.
So it was an interesting monster. It's supposedly, according to Scales of Injustice, the book, it's a distant relative, a more powerful physical relative of the Sea Devils and the Silurians. It's one of those cousin kind of relationships, and so it's an interesting monster in terms of the lore. But in terms of like execution, I see it like the seaweed hanging from the mouth was kind of funny, and I mean it had some funny things, and I mean the big ultraviolet ray, that sort of satellite dish parabolic thing pointing at it was that was interesting. Yeah, Turlo and Tegan going up the ventilation shaft. I mean, that became kind of a trope, a user thing. And then there were the classic lines, Braveheart, Tegan. And then there was the other classic lines, the other classic line, I don't know why I love you guys on this miserable planet, or something like that. The Fifth Doctor, tried to do it, and then the other classic moment was he was running along, or he was fighting that guy on the gantry, and the guy pushes him, and he does a backflip into the water. That was cool. I mean, that was really sort of awesome, and it also showed that they were underwater and that there was different places where they'd leave a water surface so that they could swim to. Anyway, there's so much good stuff, but it's I agree about the lighting, but the costumes of the time were, they looked like rubber or leather or something like that, and so that was probably the best thing that they could possibly do. And Ingrid Pitt had some cheesy moments, but she did okay. And that you could tell that, when you first saw the controller guy, you could tell that he was just about on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Anyway, that's all for our love seat. Back to you, Alwood.
Yep, and we'll go to Beefhead. What did you make of this, Beefhead?
Goodness, how can I follow the love seat? I've got to agree with Lee, to be honest with you. It's the concept is great. It's two things basically on the mutual edge of destruction type thing. Basically, they're two powers, the same point, and they're complete odds, but if either one makes the move, you could say parallels to the Cold War, everything like that. But it does, let's not make any bones about it. It does fall down in the execution massively. It's got all the tropes that you expect from Doctor Who. There's lots of running along similar corridors. The only difference that this makes to it is that you do have a sort of dystopian sort of ending where pretty much everyone dies. Yes. Did the Silurians and the Sea Devils deserve to be brought back in a better fashion? Yeah, they did, to be honest with you. the Doctor really doesn't do much for the first 2 episodes of so basically the first 2 episodes of this 4-part. He doesn't really do much. So it seems rushed and hurried, and it jumps a lot. And I don't think that's anything to do with the actors, to be honest with you. The acting, is good. Davidson is on point. Janet Fielding is on point. Strickson is great, to be honest with you, because you just get this idea that he's untrustworthy. Even though it's only his own guilt that makes him go get the gun to open up the bulkhead once the Myrka bursts in, to be honest with you, that forces him to do that. Any other time, he's ready to just basically let him die and just get out of there and save his own skin. So it builds up that sort of distrust for him as a character. Tom Adams is brilliant as the commander, just because he's got that fantastic voice. None of the means for that, to be honest with you. It reminds me of Patrick Allen, who used to do the Barrett Holmes adverts, to be honest with you. He has this fantastic booming voice that engenders leadership. But it falls apart. There's no two ways about it. I feel sorry desperately for the Sea Devils that they've been brought out of deep freeze, and basically they're put into what now would be a corporate induction program, because they have their first day of induction and then they die on their first day of the job. And then what can we say that we haven't already said about the Myrka? It looks like the love child of Kermit the Frog, Cookie Monster, and the pantomime horse from Rent-A-Ghost. It does. It just looks bad. And you have the foam door that falls onto Tegan's leg, which you would think would shatter it. Luckily, the Myrka treads on the other end of it, and she's able to walk without any limp or anything like that straight after. So, obviously, in the near future, doors aren't as dangerous as they were to Harrison Ford. It's 2084, bear in mind, so it's not far away from where we are now. It is what it is. It's not the greatest. Like Lee said, what happened to the Sea Devils? Now, looking into it, I believe the original moulds for the Sea Devils' heads were lost, and they had to get one from the museum to make the master mould for what they did in this, but they sort of rejigged it to give them the helmeted look that they had in this. Would I rather have this version of the Silurians than what we have now? Yes. To be honest with you, it gave them a harder edge. It's a shame, because you could have made more of it, that they were sort of disenfranchised. To be honest with you, you were struggling to understand their motivation to a certain degree, because unless you think about what's gone on before, it wasn't really established that well that they had already been burned twice. To be honest with you, so you thinking about that, you get where they're coming from, but it's not fully realised. And and also like Alid said, I mean, that it's because it's so brightly lit, it would have been better to have something of the suspense to it. If you want to put it in comparison, is Cold War a better sort of people trapped in a place with something hunting them down an option, or is it sort of more akin to something like the Moon Base or something like that? There are parallels that you can run to each other's stories of other types of stories. But it's not the greatest. It won't ever be deemed as one of the best ones. But look, there are far worse ways that you could spend sort of 4 episodes worth of watching. So I'll give it a pass, because there's a lot of other stuff of Davison's there that I love more. But it'll do for me for now.
And let's see what Jake thinks.
I absolutely adore this story. I have a real soft spot for it, but I see where people are coming from for production. It's like they've been like, oh, we've got Silurians and Sea Devils. Let's not make them anything like they were in their other 2 stories. I mean, I don't know what point in history the Silurians decided to do the Kylie Jenner lip challenge, because they look ridiculous, those massive big lips smacked in the front of their face. And then we've got the wonky-head Sea Devils that are walking about like they're not trying to step on Legos in the middle of the night. And it's a waste. It's a waste of 2 great monsters that could have been so menacing, and they weren't in this story. Not once did I feel, oh no, they're going to blow up everyone. They're just standing there staring into space for one of the scenes, just plodding about like blooming imbeciles, not like these things that we want our planet back. Not once in this story did I get the strong feeling that they wanted their planet back. It's more like they wanted to destroy it than have it to themselves. But the cast were good. I agree with what everyone said there. Davison was good. Janet Fielding was good. But I don't like Turlough. I thought he was incredibly irritating in this story. I even put the Myrka above him in this story, to be honest. That much I didn't like him. And then we get to the point of the Myrka. It was a good idea. I'd have preferred it not to have been seen, like someone else said. They could have a great opportunity of like the lights flickering and like all water trickling down her face and it's stomping through or something like that. But they won't do it in the 80s. It was a really 80s story. That's the trouble with the John Nathan Turner era of Doctor Who. You have so many good bases for stories and half of them won't be produced good, like this one. It is such a shame because this could have been an incredible story. And the action was stupid, over-dramatised. I did chuckle at the Kung Fu scene, but I did like it in there because it's quite a bit of a dull story until that, I think, because it's ruined. Would I say it ruins the Silurians and Sea Devils? No, I'd say Modern Who did that, and I would prefer these Silurians back rather than... I'd rather have Kylie bloody Jenner Silurians show up rather than these ones prancing about with their massive tongues. And that's my opinion on Mockers of the Deep.
Oh, wow. Well, how do I top that? You know, I don't know how to top that now. This is one of those stories where people who say 80s Doctor Who wasn't that good, they bring episodes like this up. And even when Michael Grade put Doctor Who into Room 101, this was one of his reasons why. This was one of the clips shown. And yeah, it's not a very good episode. It's a great concept. I mean, it's a Sea Devils and Silurians, amazing classic monsters. To think if that happened now, we would all be so excited if these two monsters were going to be in Series 11 in one episode. We'd be so excited. But it just doesn't work. They're just not a threat. It doesn't feel like there's any danger. I mean, I love Tegan. I love Turlough. I love Peter Davison. But this episode just doesn't work. Too many wobbly sets, too overlit, etc., etc. And the problems just go on and on. And I used to actually like this when I was a kid. But now it it's not very good. It is one of his weakest. If not I think Time Flight's still weaker. Yeah. There's not much good to say about this episode. Apart from it's Doctor Who and I love Doctor Who. And that's why it's good. But if it's any other TV show, it'd be crap. So yeah. Anybody got any favourite moments? If there is any.
Well, I just wanted to say...
Can I just say, the commentary. The commentary's good on the DVD.
Okay, Ellen, to write off what you're saying, but it is the Silurians and the Sea Devils and the Myrka in the water, in the sea, where they came from, you know?
Yeah, good concept.
It's sort of like, you know, we're on their turf, you know, so all the weirdness, it's just because, you know, we're the ones with like the puffy shoulders and the big hair and stuff, but they're like in their normal, and they've got the military and the samurai Sea Devil type look, and that's pretty badass.
Yeah, but Susan, you see Peter underwater, but you don't see them underwater. If you wanted to do that, then that would have been maybe something cool to do. Right. But basically, it's sort of like they're in a dankly lit cave with glowing things. So yeah, that's basically it. To be honest with you.
And they're so slow as well, and the scenes are dragged out. A lot of the scenes are dragged out, especially with Silurians.
Well, the other issue is, were they so cheaply made that they couldn't touch water? That's the other thing. I mean, if you know, like I said, it's a great concept. It's not a bad plot, but it's just the execution, and then the tone changes from episode to episode. And by the time you go to by the time you see that Myrka thing, it's an absolute joke. And
Myrka, not
yeah, it
Milka.
would have been better. Right, it would have been better if it had been half shown or a shadow or something like that. It would have been scarier. But by the time you have the woman doing karate, I mean, it just falls apart. It's unfortunately, it's also the producer's fault as well as the director. It was a great idea, and if they could have done it today, that would have looked wonderful, and that would have definitely added to improved the tone, improved the atmosphere. But they just didn't have the budget and the real means to do it. Plus, yeah, if the creature is stumbling around like they're trying to avoid, Lincoln blocks, it's not scary. And the problem is, they even mentioned it on Fourth Doctor Who that usually had a very good production value, especially compared to this, except for the horns of Nimon with the overacting. Star Wars changed the game. So after you see that, this is a total joke, unfortunately. It's a nice concept, but it just doesn't look good.
It's not,
But when people say wobbly sets, you think of this episode, and that's my problem. Because on the whole, Doctor Who didn't have wobbly sets.
yeah, but I mean, it wasn't really wobbly. It was.
No, it was wobbly.
Yeah, it was.
You could see a good few walls having the movements.
All right.
So if they could have worked on it a little better and either had the production better in terms of the monsters or have them really, I mean, it was barely scary. That's the other thing. So
it wasn't scary. No.
Yeah, I mean, it
wasn't scary at all.
I mean,
No.
Yeah, so I mean, you just kind of, it's like it was missing like four pieces. It was good sets, it was good costume, it was a nice idea to have water on the set, and that's risky. I understand that because usually electricity and water and all that stuff doesn't mix. But then, it just the way they directed it and the way that they. Yeah, it just the tone's off. It's a shame because it had so many good possibilities, but it just didn't work. And that's why but every Doctor has a couple of bad episodes that you go, oh my God, what were they thinking? But then if you watch Caves of Androzani, it's beautiful.
Oh, amazing!
You know what I mean? I mean, there you go. There's your political intrigue. Even though they have some moments that they're talking to the camera and they're hamming it up, but it looks so good, and they've got the music and they've got the atmosphere. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
even when they go over the top, it's still a little. Because I've shown it to people that aren't Doctor Who fans. I showed them this, and they were laughing to death. I showed them Caves of Androzani, and they're going, "Wow, what happened?" It's 100 times better.
But I was thinking about this actually last night, that it's more of a fan made. It feels more fan made than anything. Like somebody could throw this together now, like with the Myrka.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Like it looks very amateurish.
Yeah, that's.
The Silurians and the Sea Devils walking was really slow. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it was really
As slow as a person in Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah, even worse.
I don't think they was executed properly in this story, in my opinion. I think they're the real victims of this story, not the Silurians, the Sea Devils. They shouldn't be used as foot soldiers. I think they should have had better characters, to be honest.
Totally agree.
They're not a military force. They're meant to be these blooming, like, I don't know how to put it. I knew what I was going to say, but it had to come out properly. So
the actors were the biggest victims, to be honest with you. Maddox, who is like the guy who's there, sort of there to sync in with the computer. You get the idea that he's he's like a pacifist. He's like a conscientious objector, where you've got these two warring forces, where everyone's in a mutually destructive position, and he's sort of like, I don't know whether I can actually go through it. I don't know whether I can press the button. And you have the girl that he's talking to, and he ends up having to kill her and everything like that because he's being mind controlled or pressured into something that he doesn't want to do, conflicting with how he is. And it is that there are sort of like little gems of performances in this, but it's just lost in the sort of where it all falls apart, and that's the sad thing. I mean, you do have James Coombs show up as well, though, at one point, who who at least redeemed himself in Sharda. That's for sure.
I've got a question.
No. Let's. Go on then.
Well, I've got several. I've got several questions, but I would
Are
like.
Are they about this episode of Doctor Who though? That's what we want to know.
Yeah.
Like,
but,
not like what am I doing here or.
I think that.
Where am I?
But before I ask the questions, I've got to say you've got to give a good thumbs up to Matt Irving, the model effects design person. He did some really great model shots in this. All the underwater effects, all the things outside, and he is a doctoral legend, is Matt Irving. So you've got to give a bit of kudos to him. But a few questions, like how did the leader of the Silurians? How did the Doctor recognise him, seeing as he changed since the Silurians? He didn't look anything like he did before. And the Doctor changed, but you think the Silurian leader would look the same.
Probably smelled a bit fishy.
Yeah. And why does... And this is
they say smell is one of the greatest senses for evoking memories. That's it. He probably has a certain odour about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an aftershave. Crab stick.
Squid ink. He just smells like squid ink.
Squid ink. Oh,
that comes in handy.
Yeah, crab stick for men. Yeah.
The other question, what's always bugged me about Taylor is why does he always wear his school uniform when he absolutely hated being at that school?
Because this is 80s Doctor Who. And at the time, they all wore the same clothes.
The rest of
Alex said that twice. When we were watching it, he said that twice. I was like, that he just likes eyes.
He couldn't wait to get away from that school, and he's still wearing his school.
5 points for Alex.
I don't know. But I said the underwater scenes with Peter Davis was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
as well.
That's funny. Yeah, that was the other issue too. That I tried to show people that weren't fans of Doctor Who, and they said, "Yeah, guys, couldn't they have had the budget to change the uniforms? They changed it for Tegan. Why didn't they change it for the Doctor and Turlough? They did in Planet of Fire, but it's like they waited almost the whole era before they finally changed the costumes. So
think how stinky they would have been.
Well, I'm not even thinking along those lines, but anyway.
He would have sweated in that. Oh
yeah, wasn't that the other joke in the story? What have you been eating? Yeah,
did he sleep in that?
When the doctor took the guy's uniform and he goes, "What have you been eating?" And everybody started using that as a running joke.
Oh, it's not right. Is it? Anybody else got anything to mention?
Yes, me.
Yep.
The part where Davison is in the water is one part where he turns over and you can tell it's a double. And the part where the companion says, "Oh, you're going to get killed, Doctor." "No, you're not, because you're in next week's episode."
Yeah, but that happens a lot in Doctor Who.
Also, I'll point out, I know Beef had mentioned this earlier about Tom Adams, who plays the captain at the sea base, with his booming voice. But I think Beefhead almost will remember Tom Adams. He did used to do adverts, didn't he?
Steiner Stair Lifts.
Steiner Stair Lifts. I'm sure he did a carpet one as well. Is it Allied Carpets?
Yeah.
Yeah. He did have a bit. I mean, he's no longer with us now, but
yeah.
But I totally agree. He's the same sort of actor with the voice as the other actor you said.
Patrick Allen.
Patrick Allen.
Who used to do Barrett Holmes and Vic and Bob.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to know what Jake's up to because he sat there giggling, staring at something.
He's in a sauna in a non-disclosed location.
My meds have kicked in. Carry on.
All right.
See what this episode drives. It drives people to drugs, really, to try and null the pain.
Well, we might as well move to final say and score, mightn't we? Beefhead, you might as well go first since you're muted.
Oh, let's see. Well, yeah, it's like I say, it's a high concept done badly. Is that exclusive to Classic Who? No, because they've done it in New Who more than once that it does fall apart. So how can I punish it? I can't punish it because I love Classic Who. I watched this at 1.0 speed, not 1.5 speed. I'll give it a 6. I think that's it. I don't think that's too harsh, and I don't think that's unfair because I like the old Silurians. I like the Sea Devils, but they do deserve better. And that's why I think, to a certain degree, why people want the Sea Devils back that much, to be honest with you. They need to give it another crack of the whip because there was one spectacular thing, and there was this one thing that was just a little bit... and that's a chapter that, you want closing. We've had enough Silurians. We don't need any more of them. But do something with the Sea Devils. Don't let them go out like that, homie. 6.
And let's go to Brian. Yep, wakey, wakey, Brian, get off those sites. I'll tell your mother.
Well,
Come on, man.
Weird, okay. All right. I think I would probably give this story like maybe. I would probably give it a 7 out of 10.
Wait. We're on favourite moments. You haven't been paying attention, have you?
You said score.
No, I said favourite moment. You haven't been paying attention. I'm only joking. We're all final saying score.
You're confusing me, Alan.
It's a 7, yeah? It's a 7.
It's not hard.
Yes, 7 out of 10 tortoises.
Right, let's go to Stephen. Alex is dying to have another set.
Well-written story, bad monsters. It gets a 5 from me.
Let's go to Alex and Susan because I feel bad for him having to hold the microphone.
Okay, well, I'll let Susan talk first.
All right. Thanks.
What, are you sure? Whoa. What's going
I
on?
enjoy this one. I will give it an 8 for these reasons. One,
There were powerful women in this as well, Suze. Don't forget that.
they were, and it was a good tie-in with between the Pertwee Silurian Sea Devil stories and the Scales of Injustice. And so, I mean, it's got the stuff in it to tell the story, and it tells a good story. So it's an 8. It's got to be an 8. You guys are all confused.
No, it
if you
doesn't
don't
have to
give
be
it
an
an
8. Yeah.
Okay. Did this idea have a lot of promise and a lot of concept? Yes. The concept, unfortunately, was not produced or directed accurately. So it is good that they brought back some of the villains from the Pertwee era, but as I said, I'd rather watch the Pertwee era because at least you felt like they were scary, you felt like they were a threat. Here they weren't a threat, they weren't scary, and then this Myrka thing is just, I'd rather have the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. It would have been scarier. Like I said, it's not that it doesn't have good points, but compared to the rest of the era, except for Time Flight, even Time Flight, if it had better effects and better pacing, it would have been better than this.
Okay.
So no, it's a great idea, but the execution, unfortunately, and the monsters give it a 6.
Oh, what, a 6?
What, a 6? You were building it up like you were going to give it like a 2 or something.
But a
No
6?
dinner for you, Alex.
What's that?
No dinner for you.
He's cooking.
That is like a good 10 out of 10 from Alex. Let's go to Jake. Final sense score.
I love this story. I like the concept.
You were bashing it earlier.
It was just it was just made wrong up for me. The production wasn't as good as it should have been. The Sea Devils were poorly used. The Silurians looked too ridiculous. I agree with what everyone else said. They should have been more 70s, more scary. I thought it would have been a good. It would have been a good. I can't think of the word. It'd have been a good time to, like, in scenes, have the power cut off or something, and have blinking lights when everything's invading. That would make it so more atmospheric than what it already was. But I will give this 8.5 bendy doors out of 10.
What? But yeah, those, you really have taken those medications, haven't you? Let's go to Lee. Lee, bring some sanity back. These 8s and 6s and 8.5.
Before I score it, I'll just want to go down the canon route. I've got to say, Big Finish.
Oh, now we've just lost our one viewer. Thanks for that.
Big Finish have proven that they can do the Myrka better on audio than TV. Which they say is that the Myrka what appeared in Warriors of the Deep was an infant Myrka.
No, I'm sorry, it's not canon. Doesn't count. I'm throwing out.
If it's licensed by the BBC, it's canon. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I agree with everything what everybody says. It's a very good story, just done badly. I'm giving it a 7.
What? A 7?
7.
Oh, it's in Hull too. I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it a 5. It doesn't deserve any more than a 5 because there's so much better stories out there. Even the Peter Davison era has a lot better stories than this, which deserve a higher score. So this has to be a 5. Like if you're going to rate this an 8.5, and give, you're basically saying this is only a few points away from Caves of Angisani, which is obviously going to be a 10 by everybody, which it isn't. It's nowhere near as good. You've got to put things into perspective. This is a 5 out of 10 story. End of. No arguments for it. Anyway, I'd like to thank everybody here for joining me. I'd like to thank you, viewer, for being here. I know you're fast asleep at this point. Tell us below what you think.
Yes, if you disagree. Like, comment, share, subscribe.
Yeah, comment below if you disagree or even agree.
Fight me.
Yes, exactly. Do that with Beef Dad. With Beef Head, rather.
Yeah, he's the other one. He's the grey gay one, not me. That's it. That's Beef Dad. I'm the younger one. The good looking.
And hit the subscribe button as well. Take care, look after yourself, and we will see you next time.